Today we're going to be breaking down the most important things you need to know for CS2 case investing, including exclusive data I have never before shared. Now starting off with just our current prices all across the board, honestly it has not been the greatest month for CS2 case investing for the rare cases specifically. Obviously a lot of them right now are not in a position that I would say they're excelling when we look at just the previous month, but if we want to look at a long-term period, we're not looking at really any slight downturn at all. I mean, we're looking at maybe a slight pullback for the majority of these, but right now rare cases are in a great position, which is why it's a really optimal time to potentially capitalize upon that when we're looking at this data right here. Now, while we are looking at these prices right now, it's very important to note that nothing is guaranteed inside of this area. Even with rare cases, when we look at all the data, theoretically there is no guarantee, and obviously we can see that with some of the current prices, because based on everything, these cases should be going up in price every single day, and that's obviously not what we see right here. Now that is just theoretical, and someday they are just going to skyrocket in price like they have previously. It's something we know is going to happen if we continue on this trajectory, but it's very important to note that that is presuming that we continue on this trajectory, which is obviously very likely, but not guaranteed. Skinland is today's sponsor, and if you're looking to sell your CS2 skins, they are the #1 spot. Now with Valve's latest update, you have to wait 7 days to go ahead and get your money, but with Skinland, you're going to be able to get the best rate possible with a $10 free bonus on your first trade. Now don't forget to use code MasterShiny for that bonus, and the best part about this is they are one of the first to bring this back, and they are the most safe option to sell your CS2 skins for cash. They've also got a massive marketplace if you're looking to pick up some CS2 skins as well, significantly cheaper than the Steam market. I sell on Skinland for the best rate, so don't wait. Now one very important thing to know before we get too deep into it is going to be the Fever and the Gallery case. Unfortunately, because these are generated off of users creating them and not any specific data we have to back up the creation, we don't really have any idea where these cases really sit, which is unfortunate and fortunate in the same sense. We're not going to be really looking too deep into these because obviously they are dependent on people redeeming them stars for them, and obviously you can create as many stars as you want. You just have to pay on average around 80 cents for them, but it is a very important baseline to have when we're looking forward. Now talking about our most important data here, first off with the generalities. First up we got the player count. Obviously this is one that's very important to determine the amount of cases dropped, but it has definitely dropped off in terms of total players over the past couple of months. Not really to be unexpected with the summer coming around. Now that's extremely crucial when we follow up to our first main graph right here. That's going to be the total cases dropped versus the total cases consumed, obviously not including those Fever and Gallery cases. Now this one's very interesting because if we want to look at that red line, we can see the amount of cases unboxed every single day. Blue line is the amount of cases coming in every single day, and you'll notice it lines up exactly with what we saw earlier for the player count. That's because the blue line is an estimate. We don't know exactly how many cases are dropped, but with long-term data we can figure out on average how many should be coming in. Now if we want to look at that red line, we can see that it is dangerously high. That's because we're actually running out of cases at a very fast rate, and even for some of these active duty cases they cannot keep up. Remember, this is all cases right here. This is those active duty and the rare cases, anything but the purchasable. It's a very interesting graph, and you're going to be able to extrapolate these numbers into some very interesting pieces. Now going along with calculating that red line, obviously that is coming straight from Vijek's site right here. Obviously this is a very crucial piece of information when we're talking about case unboxing numbers. Obviously they are all right here. Unfortunately the graph I had previously is becoming a little bit harder to use because he made it significantly harder to scrape his site for the data right here in terms of numbers, but you can always check out the site. It's a great resource and honestly something I use consistently. It's very important to know which cases are currently in the demand area and which ones have kind of fallen off, because things go in waves, and it's always crucial to know. You can sort by daily, weekly, monthly, and you can look at all the past data here as well. It's a great resource and one of the highly important ones for rare case investing. However, that's all just general data, and the really important piece when we start looking at specific cases immediately pops up, and that's going to be something like this. This is a Prisma 2 or a Snakebite or CS20 case or Horizon or any single rare case. You can see exactly what's going on here. We've got our red and blue lines still, although you can barely see the blue, and that's the most important part about this is we can see that we are consistently running out of these rare cases. It's why our prices are consistently going up, because every single one of these rare cases, especially the cheaper ones, especially the ones in demand, are seeing this exact issue where the amount unboxed is just so significantly higher than the amount coming in. That's because these rare cases make up 1% of the drop pool, and there is like 40 some items inside of that 1%. Your odds of getting one of these cases is so immaculately small that we are now seeing all of these rare cases in a position where they are theoretically going to go extinct. If they're at the current rate that they are right now, they're obviously going to fall off at some point, and that's therefore the profit opportunity that we look for. Now we'll come back to rare cases in a minute, but I want to focus in on the other part, the active duty cases. That's because these are the cases that are 99% of the drop pool, the ones that theoretically should be consistently unboxed significantly significantly less than the amount coming in. And if we want to look at that on these same graphs we were just looking at previously, we can see that's not necessarily the case. If we want to look at something like the Dreams and Nightmares case, there was a fair amount of days where the red line was higher than the blue, and honestly, it's very close all days. Now, this ranges significantly depending on which of the active duty cases you're looking at, but we can see a consistent trend all across the board that these are theoretically going up in the amount of supply. Almost all of them are consistently, over a long enough period of time, going up in supply. That's just because they make up 99% of the drop pool and people cannot unbox them at a fast enough rate, but they're so close. And that's the big thing, is previously we were looking at graphs that were significantly less for that red line. Now our red line has creeped up so much that we're seeing high prices for active duty cases, which really is a very new phenomenon. It's not something we saw in the past. We used to see 3-cent cases. Now we don't even see active duty cases approaching 25 cents, maybe 30. It's crazy inside of this area, and that leads us to a very big problem for people that want to invest into the active duty cases. In my honest opinion, the only way you can really make profit off of active duty cases is investing into them and trying to make a flip or waiting until they get removed, both of which are extremely risky because now we don't know exactly how the market's going to look for the active duty cases because it's such a new phenomenon. No one knows exactly what's going to be happening inside of this area, and that leads us into our situation here where I would highly suggest you go with rare cases because we know exactly how that market's going to function. Now, breaking out what exactly is going to be happening next inside of this area. Well, first up, obviously rare cases is the main specific we're talking about here because we've just learned that these are the only ones that have a true stable path that we can generally predict inside of this area, and therefore I would highly suggest that the prices of rare cases are going to be going up significantly in a relatively short time period. Now, we're seeing the summer pullback right now, but if we want to look at case unboxing numbers, they are definitely at the lowest point of the year around this time consistently. That's a really good sign that we're seeing on a very similar circle to what we've seen previously. Therefore, if we want to break down what exactly we're looking for next, honestly, we're looking for the trends to continue. The trends of the past 5 years continue again. If so, we're going to be seeing significant increases in price for the majority of rare cases, and honestly, I think that's a very safe bet to make. We're obviously not guaranteed anything, but if we want to look at the 1 year for the majority of these rare cases, they are up significantly. The past 365 days has been one of the most successful in the history of the rare case market, and that's not something that's just going to immediately end. Obviously, we've seen some pullbacks just because we have seen so much growth. I definitely don't think it's something that's going to be a super easy thing overnight, but if we want to look at the next 365 days, it's a very clear sign to me that we're probably going to be seeing some very nice growth as well. It may not be 300% like we saw over the past year, but it's honestly not going to be just a stagnant market for a whole year. At this point, I would say that's almost impossible, but that's just my personal opinion. The most important thing is forming your own thoughts using the data that is provided in the data you find on your own. Just make sure it's coming from a reputable source and you're going to be all good. That's all I got with. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.